First.
This is a big one.
So, thanks for coming out to another run-through. I call it a workshop production of my one-woman show, Now Who's Crazy Now? This is my story. This is my story of living with a mental illness and recovering from a mental illness. But what is mental illness? The dictionary defines it as a health condition characterized by dramatic alterations in thinking, mood, behavior, or any combination associated with distress and or impaired functioning. That doesn't sound very definite. Legally speaking, mental illness is defined as unsoundness of mind sufficient to render a person unfit to undertake decisions regarding right or wrong, or decisions regarding theirs or others' well-being. That sounds a little bit scary. Maybe that's why other people use euphemisms to define mental illness. You know, like out of your mind, a screw loose, nutty as a fruitcake, mashugana, non-compos mentis, a few sandwiches short of picnic, a few pickles short of jar, a total whack job, and all sorts of other crazy labels. I hate labels. Labels are for jars, no matter how many pickles are in them. When people ask me to define mental illness, I like to tell them that madness is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the outcome to change. Or maybe that madness is, there's a fine line between madness and insanity. And maybe madness and genius. Or, thank you for helping me. I think I'm going insane. Or maybe something more defiant, like what manner of sanity is it to be well adjusted in a profoundly sick society? Of course, if you've been to medical school, you'll define mental illness using the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 4th edition, the current holy Bible of psychiatry. I know because I studied psychology in university. I've also been in and out of mental institutions for half my life, sometimes in restraints and sometimes without. I've seen all sides of the mental health system. I've been a provider and a consumer of mental health services. Where did they ever come up with that word? Consumer. It makes me furious. I don't recall shopping for my mental illness. And if I did, I'd pick one with lots of words. No boring old bipolar for me, no. Something like chronic adjustment disorder with mixed disturbance of emotions and conduct. Or maybe I'd pick borderline personality disorder, because that pretty much covers any symptom you care to exhibit. Or maybe I'd choose a diagnosis that I'd enjoy getting, like hypoactive sexual desire disorder. What is it, that one, that hallucinogen persisting perception disorder, acid flashbacks. I guess that means most of the baby boomers are insane. Or maybe I'd pick a really bizarre one, like fictitious disorder with predominantly psychological signs and symptoms. What this means is that faking having a mental illness is actually a mental illness. Wow. Like Klinger from MASH, or Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I've got a message for you young people. Don't start smoking cigarettes. Not because they cause cancer and emphysema, but because they cause mental illness. According to the DSM, nicotine addiction is a mental illness. And they've got you if you try to quit, because nicotine withdrawal is a mental illness too. What's next? Motivational deficiency disorder for being a couch potato? pedestrian mid-street mobility disorder for jaywalking. I was diagnosed with plain old bipolar disorder, or manic depression as it was known. People often ask me what it's like being manic. Nobody ever wants to know what it's like being depressed. No. They don't want to hear about the gut-wrenching darkness that can envelop your life. They want action-packed psychosis. So I tell them, it's like you're completely out of touch with everyone in the whole country, and you think you are the most powerful person who can change anything. Sort of like being Stephen Harper. And you begin to believe crazy things like the Canucks are going to win a Stanley Cup. Or that George Bush is actually giving peace a chance. Or that the planet is being controlled by a secret cabal of Aleister Crowley worshippers operating out of the Ontario Hydro Building. You see, they were rounding up all the enlightened people and transporting them to the faraway planet of Yehubitzville. Yehubitzville was somewhere else. It was the kind of place you could only believe in when you were enlightened, where cigarettes were good for you, the pajamas fit, and none of the doors were locked. What I loved most about Yehubitzville is that I was Madonna. And I was dating Brad Pitt. And I looked fabulous in a straitjacket. I still look fabulous in a straitjacket. And speaking of hallucinogen persisting perception disorder, I remember when I first got diagnosed. Blanche, my psychiatric nurse, delivered the diagnosis. You're manic depressive, dear, but you'll be fine, just as long as you take your medication. It's just like having diabetes. You can manage. Vivian Lee was a manic depressive, you know. Frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a damn. I should have said that. But I just stood there, glaring back at her, drool dripping down the corner of my mouth. Inside my overdrugged mind, I was screaming, "No! No, I'm not crazy! Not me! No!" But I was crazy. It took me a long time to realize just how crazy I was. I was in denial, or according to the DSM, diagnosis-induced resistance disorder. But I got over that too. My recovery has been a long and arduous journey, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about tonight. I'm a little fuzzy on some of the details for various reasons being dropped on my head as a child. Pharmaceuticals, recreational and non-recreational. But don't despair. I've brought this along. This is my permanent record. This documents my movement through the system. This is what they think they know about me. Shall we? Name, Ellen Litvak. Correct, but now I go by Ellie. Sex, female, obviously. Born 4:45 a.m., March 15, 1951, Toronto, Canada. That's the file's first mistake. There's no way I'm that old. Father, born 1917, Toronto, Canada, a merchant and proprietor of household necessities and active in the church. That's the file's first real mistake. My father owned a furniture and appliance store. He sold blenders, fridges, stoves, bed, bikes, strollers, and TVs with the court channel on every one. He was also a hen-pecked, spineless, cigar-smoking, Cadillac-driving Zionist who believed in peace at any price. He was always generous with allowance and stooping me money whenever I needed it. I can still hear him. "Oi, Ellen, how much this time? I don't have that much, and what I have is all tied up. Just don't let it burn a hole in your pocket. And just don't tell your mother. Mother. Born 1931, Montreal, Canada. A pillar of the community. A former model, gourmet cook, intellectual, homemaker, and community activist. A Brian Mulroney crony. A self-proclaimed member of the Nouveau Riche, and proud of it. Not even close. My mother was a leather-clad, social-climbing, selfish, pretentious bitch who mistreated her children, yelled and screamed at my father. In fact, she only yelled and screamed at everyone for everything. I don't think she was capable of normal volume conversation. When I'd come home from school and go to the fridge for a snack, I could hear her yell from her room up on the second floor. "Whose fat face is that in the fridge, Ellen?" If my father snuck a pickle from the dinner table before dinner, she'd yell, "Get your filthy meat hooks off those pickles!" And if my mother found out that my father took us to the Dairy Queen or Mr. Donuts, if we didn't eat her home-cooked meals, we get yelled at. If we did eat her home-cooked meals, we get yelled at that we were all too fat. No wonder my sister has an eating disorder. "Oi, Ellen, you stupid, ugly, good-for-nothing, fat-ass rubber-tuchus moron! Did you really mean to buy pants that make your ass look that huge? You're so stupid. You beroigus the hunt, you sourpuss. What kind of man will marry you? A fat, stupid, lazy hippie who likes to eat, that's who. A pig, just like you." She had such a way with words. I come from a typical Jewish family, the eldest daughter, whatever that's worth. My father wanted boys. I don't think my mother wanted children at all. She wanted to be a trend-setting, globe-trotting, internationally influential big shot. I don't think she meant to be a petty, alcoholic, anorexic, social climber addicted to Valium, but she was that as well. It wasn't always like that. When I was 6 years old, my baby brother died, and my mother never recovered from the death of her son. She blamed everyone around, the doctor, my father, even me. My sister, the surviving twin, got spoiled, and I got the shaft. I was blamed for every conflict, even though I only started half of them, because I was the oldest and the one who should know better. My father was devastated that there wouldn't be anyone to take over the family name and business. Maybe that's why my parents were more supportive of their nephews, like my cousin Irving. Cousin Irving was a high roller, a mover and a shaker. Cousin Irving could do no wrong. The truth? Arrested and convicted on numerous charges, including loan sharking, impersonating a police officer, assault and battery, trafficking cocaine and heroin, armed bank robbery, and felony to commit murder. Cousin Irving was the apple of my parents' eye. They found him so amusing. They didn't think twice when he'd call from jail requesting bail. And Irving didn't skip a beat either. Just to show his appreciation, he'd show up at our house in a stretch limo with dinner reservations at an expensive restaurant, expensive cigars and brandy and fancy perfumes, all at my parents' expense. "Hey, spot me $100 and they'll take us all to Chez Paris for dinner." And his off-color humor would always crack them up. "Hey, did you hear the one about the priest, the hooker, and the rabbi, and my enormous schwanz?" never a dull moment in our house, with daily explosions of vicious sibling rivalry, emotional and verbal abuse, spankings and other physical abuse, and of course, alcohol and drug abuse. Who put the word fun in dysfunctional? This was having an impact on my emotional life, and I grew sadder and sadder, and madder and madder. Things came to a head when I was in junior high, when my mother could no longer wine, dine, or schmooze my male teachers for a passing grade. So she sought professional help from a psychiatrist she met working on one of her campaigns. Dr. Know Nothing. Wealthy, handsome, Jewish, and a Brian Mulroney crony. I always found him so frustrating to deal with. There was never any acknowledgement that my surroundings were part of my emotional difficulties. He'd start out by asking me how everything was going at home, and I'd say, fine. He'd say, okay, and then he'd sit there, smoking his pipe, with his feet up on the desk, in silence for the entire hour, when he'd look at his watch and say, see you next week. Still, somehow he made a diagnosis. No signs of mental retardation, but clear anger management issues and impulse control issues. I used to throw the most amazing tantrums. I wasn't beyond going through the kitchen cupboards and smashing every last dish in the house, or splattering red wine on my mother's new white curtains and couch. I once threw a fully loaded electric kettle at my mother. Tantrums grow more frequent and violent, leading to concerns of self-harm. I throw myself on the ground, kicking and screaming, or bang my head against the wall, hard, 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 like I wanted it to bust open and end it all. And things just got better from there. After repeating grade 9 a second time, Ellen attempts suicide. I've locked the bathroom door, smashed open the window, and crawled onto the ledge of my parents' second-story house. I'm sitting there, watching my mother's hysteria down below, watching her beg me not to jump. Ellen, please, get back inside. No. You come down now before the whole neighborhood sees you acting like this. You come up and get me. For God's sake, Ellen, get back inside or else. Or else what? I'll give you such a smack you won't know what hit you. I'll jump. Please, Ellen, I don't have time for this. I have a campaign meeting in 1 hour. For what? President of the Ugly, Selfish, Anorexic Mothers on Drugs Club? Don't you call me selfish, and don't make me call your father. But she did call him, and he did come home, and he did the sanest thing anyone had done all day. He grabbed an axe and chopped down the bathroom door and hauled me off to the mental hospital. It was great. I wasn't put on any medication, and I had full privileges, so I could hang out downtown, and my family was forbidden to visit me. This arrangement must have went well for my mother, too, because the minute I was discharged, I was shipped off to boarding school in Stamford, Connecticut. Roosevelt Academy for Excellence in Academic Achievement, located in picturesque New England, providing a supportive and learning environment for students with special needs. Roosevelt was a co-educational school for disturbed and delinquent Jewish kids, where the teachers were draft dodgers who often dated the students. My mother found it next to the crossword puzzle in the Sunday New York Times magazine section. It was the kind of school where if you paid up, you passed. I boasted to the other teenage screw-ups that I'd been in the bin and I'd met the coolest people. and done the cruelest thing. The idea of stigma and shame had not dawned on me or them, but I was to learn soon enough. 1969, graduates Roosevelt and moves home to Toronto. After spending 2 years away, I thought living with my family was serious punishment for graduating high school. I knew I had to get out, get away, escape. I barely unpacked before I moved into a group home for emotionally disturbed teenage girls, right downtown where all the action was. That's where I met my future husband, who was giving away civilian clothes to U.S. draft dodgers and deserters. He was 7 years older, played the guitar, and had long hair and a beard. The first time my father met him, he punched him in the face. I hate hippies! My father hated hippies, and my husband looked like Jesus Christ. Not a good thing when you're Jewish. And we were living in Rochdale College, a hippie haven in downtown Toronto. Rochdale College, loosely affiliated with the University of Toronto, known for financial mismanagement, selling degrees, daily police drug busts, and a general lawlessness. And if that wasn't bad enough, we were living in sin. Our parents were humiliated and ashamed, and they hated each other. My father hated my husband, my mother-in-law hated me, and my mother, well, she hated everyone. I have to give her that. She wasn't prejudiced. She was an equal opportunity hater. I don't know that my husband and I hated each other, but I don't think we loved each other either. Only the rabbi blessed this marriage. The feuding erupted into open warfare at the reception when my uncle caught my mother-in-law scratching my mother's dining room table. My husband and I decided to flee to Israel to live on a kibbutz. Perhaps we'd find peace amongst the artillery and olive trees. But it didn't work out. I told my husband that I didn't love him, didn't want to be married to him, and I didn't want to live in the desert anymore. And he told me that I was crazy and that we should start a family. So we moved back home and I started having babies. And it actually worked. I enjoyed the children and becoming a super mom. But the families were still feuding. I just couldn't please any of them. And my husband couldn't hold down a job. I didn't know when he came home if he had a rent check or a pink slip. And things just got worse and worse. I told my husband one last time that I didn't love him and that I wanted a divorce, and he had me committed. He thought I had to be crazy not to want to live with him. I thought I had to be crazy to be married to him. It was a family tradition after all. Momentous events in my life have been celebrated by having me committed. Failing grade 9 a second time, my marriage, my divorce. Seems I was helpless to escape any form of institution. And things just got better. Marital status, divorced, free at last. Pending 90-day psychiatric evaluation, not so free. Full custody of children granted to father. Very, very, very bad. I hadn't given a thought to ever living without my children, and I became obsessed, staying awake at night, devising elaborate plans for reuniting with my children. And I was omnipotent. I had special powers, and my special powers would reunite me with my children, and we'd all live happily ever after in Yehuppetsville. And every detail was symbolic. The red represented blood, the bond with me and my kids. And the leopard skin? Well, leopard skin's a widely acknowledged symbol of honor, respect, and authority in African culture. So they'll bring me and my kids together in Yehuppetsville. And if I didn't know which one was more important, I'd wear one of each. And I had so much energy. I had to do something. Exercise was good. Running was my favorite way to get to Yehuppetsville. Of course, running can be very hard on your body unless you have these. They're homemade, and all the bright colors counteract against any negative energy from the running. And now this. The green means that the reunion with my kids is a go, and all the other points act as a shield against Aleister Crowley and the Ontario Hydro. Oh, now this. It's made of feathers. And in Native culture, feathers are a symbol of power. And I had so much energy, I'd ran and run, oh, the endorphins. Oh, break on through to the other side, all the colors bleed into one. I'm running up that road, running up that hill, but I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Hitchhiking was another favorite way to get to Yehuppetsville, at least when I was all run out. I believed that anyone who picked me up was in on the plan. I'd jump into a taxi without any money because the shady cabbie was going to take me home. Or a cokehead logger driving a 4x4, smoking crack and cranking the tunes. Fly like an eagle to the sea. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Out on yet another one of my manic jogs, I dropped in to have a few martinis at a bar where everyone was celebrating the reunion with my kids. They all knew, and they were so happy. The party ended when the police came, handcuffed me, threw me in the back of the cruiser, and took me off to Yehuppetsville. And there was Nurse Blanche, waiting for me. And who are we today? La Rose, Ellie Rose, Rose Bloom, Rose Bloomberg, Shani Bloom, Shani Black, Shanna Silverberg, Sherry Silver, Camille Goldbloom. On Yehuppetsville, I could be whoever I wanted. Like Samantha P. Quinn, Maureen K. Simmons White, Bertha Reinhardt, Agnes Hildebrand Fleur, and my favorite, the exotic psychotic. I'm not calling you that. Address? Yehuppetsville. I most likely didn't have one. And if I did, I was usually out. Not one person from my family would talk to me anymore. I was isolated, alone, living on welfare, and more than likely had just broken up with or being dumped by one of the many men I thought would love and care for me. Are you taking your medication? Of course I am. Do you think I'm crazy? What time is it? Do you know what day it is? Why does a rolling stone gather no moss? Can you count backwards from 100? Hey, what's with all the questions? Did you know that the sum of the square root of any two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side? That's a right triangle. Do you know why you're here? Do you remember being in the Mount Sinai gift shop trying on nightgowns, taking off all your clothes, dancing naked in the lobby? And it's off to Yehuppetsville, where I am stripped down, restrained, shot up the butt with an overdose of stelazine, and locked in a quiet room. I'm wearing these oversized blue hospital PJs, and when I stand up, the pants fall down. There's a mattress on the floor, but no toilet, and I have to pee. Nurse Blanche! Nurse Blanche! Pee in the cup, sweetie! There's a McDonald's cup in the corner. Corporate contribution to mental health. I make my contribution and I collapse on the mattress until the next day, I think. I vaguely remember shuffling up and down the halls for what seemed like weeks on end until I finally resurfaced. And then I was really angry. I hated being locked up. I hated being told who I was, and what I should do by any of them. I had a bit of a problem with authority. No wonder they thought I was paranoid. I didn't trust any of them. I thought they were all out to get me. And I hated meds. I hated the side effects. It felt like I was in some kind of chemical straitjacket. So I quit, or used street drugs. I believe that a few joints, a stiff drink, a line of coke, some uppers, downers, acid, ecstasy, and my favorite, nitrous oxide, was better than anything a psychiatrist could prescribe for me. And when I stopped my meds, my head cleared up. It felt good, like my old self. And I got more ideas and more things accomplished each day. Important things. And the days grew longer and longer and busier. But that was okay because I didn't need to eat or sleep anymore. And that was okay because I was reuniting with my kids and we were all going to live happily ever on Yehuppetsville. And the minute I got back, I got daily visits from my family. The first was my mother. Do you know what you did this time? You gave a street musician $150. And look at you. No husband, no job, no children, no money, and living in a mental institution. Then they sent my cousin Irving in to talk sense into me. You know what you need, Toots? Is a vacation. Why don't you fly to Thailand? On me. I know a guy. You can hang out with him. He'll show you the sights, party with you. All you gotta do is bring something back from me. But he'll fill you in, Toots. Then my sister. She thought I needed a vacation too. In fact, Cousin Irving had hooked her up. A week in Thailand and all she had to do was bring something back for him. She spent a year in a Belgian prison on one of those all-you-gotta-do vacations. I admit, I've had my crazy times. I've been psychotic, I've been delusional, but let's face it, I needed a break from my family. And so I ran. I jogged. I ran marathons. I ran a theater company. I ran from place to place. I ran myself ragged. I ran from project to project, from guy to guy, from incident to incident, from disaster to disaster. Eventually, I ran all the way across the country to my tiny little cabin on Vancouver Island next to the sea, as far from my problems as I could get. And I can hear my father. Oi, Gewalt, Ellen, pull yourself together. You're not playing with a full deck. I'm not going to live forever, you know. And my mother, you can't do anything right. Look at you, separated from your children and your husband, no money, and living in a shack. Why are you doing this to me? To you? What about me? And Nurse Blanche, you simply must stop taking care of yourself, dear. You need to get a job, make some money. Have I got a job for you, Toots? Why can't you be more like your cousin Irving? Because I'm not crazy. You are, dear, just like Frances Farmer and Abby Hoffman. You need to stay away from those hippies. It's just like having diabetes. Mary Tyler Moore is one, you know. You need to lose some weight, you big fat grubber tuchus. I need to what? It's your decision. It's up to you. My decision? You need to stop causing me so much grief. I need to what? You're such a disappointment. You'll be the death of me. Like that would be a bad thing. You should just end it all. You should just walk into the ocean. You. And suddenly, it dawns on me. Somebody's got to take charge here. And it may as well be me. I mean, who else will? I need to be the boss of my life. I'm going to be in control from now on. I need to make some serious changes. I'm going to be the captain of my team, the pilot of my dreams, the keeper of my destiny, forger of my soul, mixer of my metaphors. But I could accept that. And I could accept that I needed an attitude change. And that I needed to stop listening to my mother. And that I needed to start making my own decisions. Good decisions. Good for me decisions. But I had no idea what to do or where to start. But I did know that what I was doing wasn't working. So maybe if I kept track of what I was doing wrong, I could do it right the next time. And so I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote. I wrote letters to my friends and family, to my psychiatrist, to my lawyers and advocates. I had no idea what was important, so I wrote everything down in my diaries and in my journal. I'm in such a negative headspace. I really need to improve my outlook on life. I promised myself, from here on in, every morning, I'm going to tell myself these important facts. I am a good person. Certainly. I deserve to be loved. Who doesn't? I have within me all the ingredients for success. That one I like. I have the power, I have the strength, and I have the will to accomplish anything I set my mind to. Power, strength, will. Good ingredients. I deserve to have loving, caring, positive people in my life. More ingredients. In the infinity of life, there is a sumptuous banquet, and I am the master chef. And I realized that I could make my life better using food, and not by gorging myself on Mars bars. I began to think of my life as a recipe for recovery. And the most important ingredient in any recipe is the cook. Not only did I get to be the cook, but I could create the recipe and choose my own path to recovery. I immediately stopped running and started doing yoga. Yoga grounded me and balanced me in reality. And all I had to do was breathe and stretch, and breathe and stretch. Yoga's so great for me. It's a complete mind, body, and spiritual experience. It's about balance, being centered. It calms me down when I have racing thoughts and gives me energy when I'm feeling down. Sort of like medication, but without the side effects. And I love doing tree pose. Whoops. I imagine that there are roots growing down from my feet, anchoring me to the earth, while my arms are reaching above my head, reaching out into the universe, embracing, understanding, and accepting everyone and everything. But for every day that I was one with the universe, there was one where we were at odds. For every day that I told myself that I was a good person who deserved Good things? There was a day where I told myself I was a bad person who deserved all the misery in her life. No matter how hard I tried, negative thoughts kept creeping in. Everyone was staring at me when I was out today. They all knew, like there was a big black X on my forehead, and they were treating me like a criminal. It was horrible. I don't think I can go out again. My first challenge was to overcome my self-destructive, self-defeating self-talk. Self-talk. The automatic, often negative, internal dialogue you have with yourself. Your subconscious alter ego making a constant running commentary on every aspect of your life. A self-sustaining, self-deprecating self-examination. Guaranteed to sap your self-confidence and self-esteem. Destroy your self-image. Erode your self-respect. Minimize your self-worth. Lead to self-pitying, self-inflicted self-indulgences, unable to avoid selfish, self-serving self-promoters, self-important, self-justified self-gratifiers. You self-immerse yourself into self-defeating, self-destructive, self-deprecating self-sacrifice. I need to self-improve my self-talk. I'm self-determined to become self-directed, to gain self-control, to become self-sufficient, self-reliant, more self-assertive. I need to self-program my self-destructive, self-defeating self-talk. So I made myself start writing affirmations. Whenever I had a negative thought, I'd write the opposite on a sticky note and stick it somewhere in my cabin. So for example, I suck at making friends would become, I made friends easily. I'm really stupid. I am brilliant. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. I'm the sanest crazy no. But I had to give it up. Eventually, my entire inside of the cabin was filled with these little Post-it notes. I was buried under an avalanche of good advice. And it's still enough. There was just too much to do on my own. I need to improve my relationship with the system. Nurse Blanche was right. I do need to start taking care of myself. Living with a mental illness is like living with diabetes. It's not living a diagnosis. It's about living with a diagnosis. It's about taking control of my life. It's about managing my life. It's about making conscious decisions about my health. Some diabetics require medication, but not all do. Some diabetics can control their symptoms by adopting a healthier lifestyle. But that meant taking responsibility for my own recovery. And as much as I hated to admit it, the system that I loathed for so long was chock full of people and resources who could support me. I still believe that the road to hell was paved with good intentions, but since I was in charge now, things would be different. After all, the people in the system are living, breathing, needy human beings. There had to be people out there who could support me. I just had to look for them. The first person I interviewed was a well-respected psychiatrist that Nurse Blanche recommended. A medical model horror story. A real Dr. Know-it-all. Harvard graduate with degrees in chemistry, psychiatry, and psychopharmacology. Author of Psychiatry Through Practical Prescribing. Okay, so I asked him about lithium. Young lady, I wouldn't touch the stuff. Excellent. What about medication in general? We'll start you off on a cocktail of clomazine, amoxapine, and olanzapine. All three daily in oral form, in addition to niazepam and, of course, lorazepam and cogentin in monthly injections. For the side effects. Side effects? Dizziness, drowsiness, dryness of mouth, headaches, muscle aches, constipation, diarrhea, weight gain, weight loss, decreased sexual appetite, increased sensitivity of skin to sunlight, and tardive dyskinesia, a neurological syndrome caused by some psychiatric medications, characterized by rapid, repetitive, involuntary movements of the face. Be sure to give me a call if you experience any uncontrollable chewing movements or start puffing your cheeks out or smacking your lips. Okay. And what do you do for therapy? Therapy? Group therapy? Physiotherapy? Ah, you must mean shock therapy. Now that's something we can try. Oh yeah? Don't call me, I'll call you. And if that wasn't enough psychobabble, my friend sent me to her New Age healer, this shaman Shabubu. She says he studied psychic healing and astral therapy at the Eastern Institute of Spiritual and Non-Spiritual Well-Being. Okay, so I asked him about lithium. Ooh, lithium. Yeah. Lithium works in crystal form, suspended over your head, sleeping. You are sleeping under a pyramid, aren't you? No. What about medication in general? Ooh, medication's a big waste of time. There's no such thing as mental illness, just energy blockages. Sounds like bad chi, blocking your second and third chakra, maybe even your first. You could have a serious liver problem. Bummer, man. Big bummer. Bad energy can't escape. You probably need a good cleansing, physical and spiritual. When's the last time you meditated, fasted, or had an enema? Just last week. What about therapy? Therapy? There's like visualization therapy, color therapy, regression therapy, and of course, massage therapy. You know, beautiful, I minored in sensual massage at the Institute. I'll send you a psychic message when I'm ready for that. And then there was Mark. Medical degree from Johns Hopkins, medic in Vietnam, and certified hypnotherapist and counselor. And a former hippie. And he used to smoke pot. He says he's walked barefoot over hot coals. And he's so cute. When I asked Mark about medication, he described what it was like trying to pitch hay drugged on stelazine. He worked from home and served me herbal tea before each session. And he talked to me like I was a human being. Mark was just right. He told me that recovery takes time. Slow progress is better than no progress. That turtles always win. He pointed out that the only time Bugs Bunny loses is when he takes on the tortoise. He stressed the need for balance and coined the term professional friendship. We were friends with boundaries. I feel so sorry for so many people I meet. I wish I didn't care so painfully much. I really need to be more careful about the people I let into my life. So I learned to set boundaries, just like me and Mark. It still felt like I was giving my best, but I was taking care of myself at the same time. Mark doesn't think I should stop my medication, but he said that he'll help me if I want to. I hated taking meds, so I'd quit cold turkey and end up back in the hospital where they'd put me back on meds. But I hated taking meds, so I'd quit cold turkey and end up back in the hospital, around and around and around in a vicious circle. Mark helped break that cycle. Mark said I need to laugh more. He told me to lighten up and told me that when things get really rough, I should watch comedies and cartoons. He said that you're always better off than Wile E. Coyote, and even Homer Simpson was in a mental institution. Still, you've got that diagnosis hanging over your head. Bipolar disorder, persecution syndrome, oppositional defiant disorder, and chronic bedwetting? Talk about stigma. It wasn't like I was walking around screaming that I'm a nut job, but it still felt like everyone was treating me like a criminal. Some days I could barely get out of bed in the morning. I don't feel like it today, but I'm going to pretend that I'm a satisfied, content sort of person. Fake it till you make it. I realized that if I acted like a mental patient, people would treat me like a mental patient. So, fake it till you make it. I didn't feel normal, but I acted like I was. A regular person isn't afraid to go out because they just might forget to turn off the stove. Somebody isn't crazy just because they're afraid that if they go out they might get lost and never, ever, ever find their way home again, ever. Somebody on a hot, sweaty, crowded bus stuck in traffic where everyone's grumpy and frowning thinks, this is why I hate riding the bus. Not, why is everyone so mad at me? It's not just what you think, it's what you say and what you do too. Yesterday I spent the day sitting in the lounge of a pediatric cancer ward. How normal is that? When the clerk at the store asks you how you're doing, they expect the normal, regular, average lie, not some long, rambling complaint about lack of love, lack of money, lack of friends, and the disgusting side effects of your medication. I was having a really nice time with Mike, and then I started telling him that I was going to stop taking my Haldol because it was giving me diarrhea and making me drool. Too much information for the first date. I needed to learn discretion. It wasn't so much whom I told, but how and where I told. My boyfriends didn't need to know I was crazy until after I slept with them. I saved telling my bosses my problems after I was fired. All my friends needed to know was that my parents weren't like Ozzie and Harriet, more like Ozzy Osbourne. And the guy in the bus, he didn't need to know anything about me, especially that I was on Haldol. Acting the role of a normal person worked. Slowly but surely, bit by bit, things became real. I started seeking out friends who were role models of what I wanted to become. I needed stability, so the people in my life needed to be stable. So I volunteered, I joined clubs, and I reconnected with the Jewish community. I'm not a practicing Jew, but I enjoy the culture and the traditions. And I love being a Jewish princess. I especially love camping. You wouldn't believe the services at even a one-star resort. But it had to be more than mere earthly delights. A quest to deepen my spirituality. But I thought, what religion would have me, a naive, needy nut, chronically crazy, indefinitely imbalanced? Then I realized I was perfect for any of them. I looked up religion in the encyclopedia. The atheists were a little too sure of themselves. And the agnostics, too wishy-washy. So I started with Buddhism. Hey, if anyone deserved love and happiness, it was me. I showed up at the temple with my Walkman, blasting the talking heads. Burning down the house! And I was immediately confronted by a monk. Shh. I took off my shoes and followed him down to the basement where there was a foot bath. Wash your feet. Really? You will feel better. It was magic. Clean feet, clear head. But the Buddhist philosophy of needing to suffer in order to achieve enlightenment didn't sit well with me. I'd suffered enough. I needed enlightenment now. And most cults promise quick enlightenment. So I thought I'd check a few out. You know the usual ones, like the Jews for Jesus, the Hare Krishna, Scientology. For a while I was interested in Aleister Crowley's Golden Dawn. As it turns out, they weren't controlling the world. They were trying to. I had to learn secret codes and rituals and wear long black robes. But nothing changed. So I studied law and the I Ching. I read the Torah, the the Quran, the quotations of Chairman Mao, and in the end I cut a deal with God. One of the advantages to having a mental illness is that you can talk to God. I spoke with God yesterday. See? Important things were explained. We talked about my spiritual and non-spiritual well-being. It was so simple. I scored a 2-for-1 deal when we agreed that I was God and God was me. Just check in regularly. But spirituality aside, you still have to put food on the table. And that means work. And I wasn't ready to get a job. So I volunteered. I worked in the office of a children's theater company, swept the floor of a daycare, and poured tea in a nursing home. Volunteering boosted my self-confidence, self-esteem, and it felt good. I liked getting out, meeting new people, giving back to the community, learning new things. I thought, maybe I could go back to school. Maybe one day I could get a real job doing something I love. If anyone asked what I was doing, I told them I was working. I just didn't bother to volunteer that I was volunteering. Besides, volunteer job is just like any other job, except you can't complain about how much money you're making. And when you are working, you're never making enough. I'm so tired of cleaning houses. It's killing my back and my knees. And for what? And the people. This one old lady expected me to give her a foot massage after I finished. And this one dude thought I should clean his bachelor pad in exchange for nude skydiving lessons. The stockbroker always gave me stock tips. But that was because he wanted to sleep with me. Still, it could have been worse. I could have been a secretary, typing, filing, fending off sleazy businessmen with roving hands. My mother always told me that I should learn to type. So I learned to type. It always earned me a living. But at what cost? Thankless, menial jobs. Typing always earns me a living, but at $5 an hour? But at least I'm not on welfare. I hated being on welfare. I hated begging the overeducated, overpaid, cold-hearted robots for basic necessities, like the time of day, a few extra tampons, an intent to rent form for Mountain Equipment Co-op to attend, even for an emergency dentist appointment. And I hated the dentist. The smell of Novocaine when you walk in the office, and that look of fear in everyone's eyes, and that evil glint in his eye when he delivers the diagnosis. That tooth will have to come out. I could handle the dead plants, the old magazines, the algae-infested fish tank, his incessant fascination with golf. What a gorgeous day today. Wish I was teeing off. Oops! And as I watched my blood splatter across his glasses, I thought, if it wasn't for the nitrous oxide, I'd be teed off. But welfare won't pay for nitrous oxide. And you've got to wait in a long line just to tell them what the trouble is. Then convince the receptionist that you need to see your worker. And I could swear the receptionist is Nurse Blanche's sister, Eunice. That's head receptionist. Finally, it's my turn, and I say, I'm in pain, and I need to see a dentist. And Eunice says, take a seat. So I wait, and I get to make an appointment with my worker. When I see my worker, she gives me a form to take to the dentist to be filled out. So I call the dentist, make an appointment, and show up to drop off the form. And the receptionist is Nurse Blanche's sister's evil twin. And she says, take a seat. So I wait. Finally, I get to see the dentist. And he's Dr. Know-It-All's little brother, Dr. Pull-It-All. And he says, that tooth will have to come out. And maybe that one too. And that one too. I'll bet it hurts. Here's some 222s to take until you get the paperwork done. So I take a 222 and take the form back to the welfare office for approval. I go up to Eunice and tell her I just want to drop off the form, and she tells me, take a seat. So I wait. I take a few more 222s until everything stops mattering. Eventually, the worker says it's okay for me to go to the dentist. Finally, I get to make an appointment with Dr. Pull-It-All so he can pull all my teeth. If I wanted to be humiliated and abused, I just go to my family. Or crazy again. But getting off of welfare is extremely difficult. And I'm very proud that I did it. I got myself a job in a welfare office as a receptionist. But they fired me because I was too nice. That's like firing Wayne Gretzky for scoring too many goals, or firing Martha Stewart for doing a good thing, or firing Bill Gates for giving away too much of his money. My recovery's certainly been a journey. It's not as if I woke up one day and I was with a job and friends. And I still have to pinch myself that I'm actually here, living the life that I envisioned. All I hope and pray for is that my kids are okay, healthy and self-sufficient. And I want them to know how much I love them and care for them, and that I'll always be there for them. And I want someone who will love me as much as I love them, someone to share my life with. And maybe if I keep on working on myself, one day I can help bust the stigma of mental illness. That would be a dream come true. Some kind of fairy tale. Not too much to ask for. Let's see. Most importantly, I've developed a healthy relationship with my kids. And I'm pleased to say here on Earth, and not Yehuppetsville. In fact, no recent trips to Yehuppetsville at all. And I'm so proud of them. They love me so much. I know because they spent years in therapy. And what do they talk about? Me. I may have missed out on being a Jewish mother, but I'm pleased to say that I have a great relationship with my 10-year-old granddaughter, Madison, who likes to call her father Mr. Fussy Pants, and he doesn't seem to mind. We go rock climbing, rollerblading, skimboarding. I don't participate. I just pull out my credit card and watch. Now that's being a Jewish grandma. I can't say that I'm in a committed relationship because I don't like the word relationship. I have been in a steady, stable, long-term relationship, and wouldn't you know it, he's a diabetic. And he loves to cook. Both are nutritious and delicious. But he's way too meticulous. He'll be shopping in the kitchen, and the smell of the food is making me hungrier and hungrier till I'm about to faint. So I ask him, how much longer until dinner? And he says, maybe 15 minutes, maybe half an hour. And I'm thinking dominoes, because if they're more than half an hour, it's free. Of course, he has to exercise too, so he plays frisbee and hacky sack. Whatever. When I ask him how long he'll be out exercising, he says, maybe 15 minutes, maybe half an hour. For sure, no more than an hour. And I think that's more than enough time to change the locks. But eventually he comes back, and I usually let him in, but I simply cannot be in the car with him. He's okay on the bus, but he's such an impatient passenger. How much longer till we're there? Are we there yet? Are we there now? When are we going to get there? Are we there yet? So I tell him, maybe 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, for sure no more than an hour. Depends on how fast you can walk. You know, I shouldn't complain about my relationship, but I'm going to because I'm enjoying it. One of the most frustrating things about my boyfriend is his addiction to his family. And I confess, I'm jealous. It wouldn't be so bad if it weren't The Simpsons. And I worry because he's becoming a lot like Homer. At least he only drinks 6 nights of the week. And he's not bald, yet. Of course, if I don't see my family anymore, and if I want craziness, I watch my boyfriend's family. His real life family is actually normal. Even too normal. In fact, they're so normal, they're abnormal. Lack of dysfunction is a dysfunction. Hey, I knew there had to be something wrong. I should know, I work in mental health now. Mental illness is a growth industry. It's everywhere. It's just getting harder to spot. Before the iPod, that guy dancing silently in the corner was most likely nuts. And that woman with the rainbow leggings and the wild hat wasn't just making a fashion statement. It used to be that if you saw someone talking to themselves, they were most likely mentally ill. Now they just might be taking an important call. And speaking of the mentally ill, I have a status up for you on my old team. Nurse Blanche, working at a facility near you. So is Dr. Know-It-All. Shaman Shabubu is still lurking about. Mark is out there, but you have to look for him. And I heard that Dr. Pull-It-All was decapitated in a gruesome golf cart accident. Now that's what I call a happy ending.
That was amazing.
A little different than when you said, I feel like Queen for a day. I was telling Maria, I just came back from Florida where I had a reunion with my high school friends from Roosevelt. We hadn't seen each other in 37 years. And I was coming from the furthest away because they're all mostly in the New York area. And my friend turned up at the airport with roses, and it was just like amazing. So this is beautiful. Thank you. You're gorgeous.
Brett picked it up. You're more than welcome.
Thank you. Any questions, or, I mean, do you have to process it?
What
or?
do you